Jason with Best Bonsai, and this is an update that we've been working on for about 2 years now. And I just want to go ahead and point out a couple things, techniques that we've used, and the results that they've had. Obviously, we've done some strategic trunk chops at the bottom. You could see a really big one here. And what that does, since bark is not a living part of the tree, in more bark growing back um, to callus over the wound. Also, there's something called cambium, which is what's on the between the center of the tree and the bark, and this is what basically transports um, certain nutrients in the tree, but mainly is there to like heal over any wounds and act as a protector of the the tree's health, and heal any wounds, things of that nature. But when you do strategic chops like that, it pushes the cambium out from the center and gets the trunk wider at that part. So you can use it to develop good taper and a thicker trunk from the bottom going to the top, getting thinner as it goes up, that's what we want, right guys? We want good taper and then good nabari. And these trunk chops also, because the tree has to, and then will develop stronger roots to fulfill that need, and roots closer to the surface, which is again what we want. So here you could see, even on this young Poinciana, probably 4 years old, I've been working on it for 2 years, it's already starting to develop really interesting nabari. In fact, if I go all the way out here, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on here underneath the soil. So it actually is, luckily, and then this is where luck comes in on bonsai, because sometimes you can have an awesome tree that has a flaw or something like that, and then you just get unlucky. But in the case of this tree, the roots that are above ground, the nabari, are going to the sides, and it's going to be very stylish to what I'm planning on making the front of the tree. So that's the trunk base. This one has a pretty good proportion of the height of the trunk to the wideness of the canopy and the foliage and the trunk itself. Now this one over here is much too tall. So what we're doing is we're doing an air layer to grow roots here, and then we'll chop it off from this point on, and that will be a new bonsai tree. Probably the bottom part, I believe Poincianas grow from, like a root piece or any part of the trunk. If you cut it, it'll regrow the foliage, if I'm not mistaken. So I think the bottom part will also sprout a top, and then we'll get two trees out of that actually are proportionate versus one that's obviously not aesthetically pleasing to look at, because it's much too tall and thin and doesn't look anything like a bonsai tree. I'm not talking about the ficus, I'm talking about the other Poinciana right there, just in case. So the second part on this tree is the canopy. So what have we been doing, and how has it worked out for us? As you can see, we have some ramification, We have splits. It's not just, if you would let this grow without trimming at all, it would just grow one straight shoot up with no primary or secondary branches. So what we want to achieve is ramification, meaning the branches splitting off, and we also want to keep the inner nodes, meaning the length of the branches, as short as possible, so that we can keep the foliage close to the trunk and nice and dense. So this down here, right here, where you see that first split, that was the first year where I topped the tree. I just cut off the top and just cut it right there, and then boom, from there it's split, and then we have two primary branches. Okay, from there the second one, a branch grew off to the side here, and then what's becoming the main apex is right here, and then the second branch is starting to split. As you can see, is starting to ramify. Try and get, I can't, that frill is in the way, you can't see it. Yeah, there's the primary branch there. So this season, that soft growth will become hardwood. So Poinciana's flower in the spring. What am I going to do this spring and throughout the summer to lead up to the spring? Right now I'm going to give it a little bit of liquid based, liquid based, but organic, completely organic fish fertilizer, which is basically just nitrogen fertilizer. So what does nitrogen give the plant? It gives it, it's good for vegetative growth, growing lots of green foliage and everything like that, but it's not good for flowering. So when we get to spring, when Poincianas traditionally flower, I'm going to cut the nitrogen and up the phosphorus and magnesium. This is going to allow the plant to kick into flowering mode, and hopefully we achieve Poinciana with beautiful blooms coming in this year. If it's not this year, it'll be next year, which is fine because I want to develop the canopy more anyways. Today I cut right here because what I was saying about inner nodes, right now this is softwood, but later it's going to become hard. Right now it's one long shoot growing out. I cut it from that point there. What's that mean? It's going to ramify, it's going to split from that point. I left this one to continue growing tall and grow straight up. That will be the apex of the bonsai. But I'm not going to let it go much more than where it's already at, which is 2 sets of leaves. I'm going to let it grow 1 set higher. It'll be the highest branch and the one pointing up, which is, you know, consistent with its role as the apex. So that's good. We're stylistically looking at a very dense canopy with a lot of foliage, and it's only going to get denser. We're going to get more splits, so eventually those third sets, that third set of branches will turn to a fourth, and then a fifth, and then a sixth, and then we'll have a very dense canopy. And by doing that, it decreases the size of the leaves too as well. You'll notice that the new generations of leaves that are coming in are learning to be much smaller, because they know the inner nodes are shorter. They have no choice but to adapt and not be like the first generation of branches were, these long giant frills. So they miniaturize themselves, and often people ask me, how do you trim to reduce the size of leaves? And other people say it's by cutting big leaves and leaving the small ones. That might help a little bit, but isn't gonna really do it. I would have to tell them that the only way you achieve this, and then most of the time they're not going to understand it, is by shortening the length of the branches and the inner nodes, having short inner nodes that ramify close to the canopy will allow for a complex branch structure, um, and the tree will end up growing more leaves in a smaller area. And just because of the proportion, the leaves will be smaller. With bougainvillea too, same concept. I'm not going to let these shoots grow too long. I want to keep them at 2 or 3 sets of new leaves. So with my Poinciana right now, the name of the game is just keeping the inner nodes short. If I let the branches grow too long this season, next season when they become hardwood, I'm going to have a wasted branch. I'm going to have to chop it back all the way to where I could have already chopped it now. And then only have one branch where I could have had 2 hardwood branches, which would, give me more deciduous looking branch structure. Which is the whole idea, guys. Anyway, that's today's bonsai blog from Best Bonsai. Hope you guys are doing good. Our cut and grow here on our bougainvillea is coming in. You can see lots of small little buds developing there, and it's just like gonna be just like our larger one over here. All right, guys, I'm signing out. Have a great day.